Well, welcome back to Smart Family. Did you know that there are more than 500 million active users on Facebook today? It's a question you hopefully haven't had to think about yet, but many of us will. The question is, what happens to your online profile when you or someone you know passes away? Well, joining us now is Jim Reese from Phoenix-based firm Nagel Law Group. So thanks, Jim, for joining us. How are you?
Well, thank you. Great, thanks.
So, first of all, you know, what happens to all of our stuff when we die? But one question I want to ask you is digital assets. What are they?
Well, digital assets, it helps to think about them as anything that you do routinely or have stored on your computer at home. And whether it's on a hard drive, you know, that's on the computer physically or just out in the world digitally, those are assets that you need to take care of or address. But since they're new issues that traditional mechanisms and probate and things might not address that, including in your will. So.
Well, of course, because back in the day, I know for me, I never, thought about anything about your stuff that's stored on your computer. Right. So what happens to your digital assets, or what should we do with them?
Well, you just need to address those. I mean, what happens to them is what happens to a lot of other things, which is nothing unless you've planned and designated what you want to happen to them.
So, what can we do to designate?
Okay, well, the first thing you can do is designate a person to be responsible, just like other issues. Now, it might be the personal representative that you use for probate, or it might be a different person that you would designate in a will with specific instructions about what you would want to do. And then secondly, you have to identify all the assets that you have, where they're located, passwords, and in a separate list that can actually be physically delivered to a person at that time so they can begin to process that.
Okay, so are you saying that we should actually write this addendum in our will or our living trust just in case, the unfortunate happens?
Yes.
Okay, so
including you might even, in addition to that, want to have a power of attorney that might be separate to have some authorization as well as like letters of instruction that specify how you would like things to proceed with specific assets or accounts.
Okay. So let's say the unfortunate happened and, someone passed away and they didn't do that. They didn't write a living will or a trust. What happens then? What about if somebody needs to get into their computer? I mean, what can they do? What are their rights?
Well, a lot of times it depends on what the user, and you mentioned Facebook before. Facebook now, because of the number of users that they have worldwide at any given time, this has become an issue that does happen. I think in 2010 it was in excess of 300,000 Facebook users passed away.
Wow.
So they have had to develop a policy, but again, they have certain protocols that a person has to present a death certificate or an obituary or some evidence of the passing, as well as your relationship to that person and some way to proceed from that point. Otherwise, it will just sit.
Wow. Okay, and be stuck in probate possibly after that, and who gets the rights to that. Okay, but you were saying about Facebook, so you said that Facebook came up with some different provisions. So what policies does Facebook have when somebody dies?
Well, those are the ones that I just mentioned, which is the proof of your relationship.
Okay, I thought I'm sorry, Jim.
But there's something on the site that you could go through to process it. I mean, so they expedited it for you, as Facebook to do that. Now, again, that's in contrast to Yahoo, which again, an email account would be something else. It might be important as digital asset that people would want to know what happened to that, particularly to process things like online accounts or things that go through email that you don't get physical mail. Well, the personal representative wouldn't know that they exist.
Okay.
But Yahoo is not as open with the dispersing and opening up of email accounts to users. So I mean, they've had a couple lawsuits in the past, and my understanding is that it took actually a court order from the probate court to open that up.
Jim, thank you so much. From Nagel Law Group, some really good advice. Bottom line is that you need to make sure that you have a will or a living trust in place. We've linked the information on our Smart Family website. Just go to abc15.com and you'll find us under the Lifestyle tab.